Anthony Hartwig here with another YSN edition of Legends of the Past. Today I'm joined by a Boardman legend, Boardman Hall of Famer, class of 2003, Kevin Tuminello. Kevin, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Oh, absolutely. Anything for YSN.
And last year was our first kind of football season with Boardman. So share with us kind of some of the traditions of Boardman that you remember and some of the memories that you have playing for the Spartans.
Yeah, Boardman, that was great times. You know, that's looking back on, those were probably the best times. You know, you didn't know it back then when you were there, but a lot of great memories, a lot of great friends I still have to this day. You know, we had a lot of great teams back then, and even when I was at Georgia Tech, we had a coach who was from Aliquippa, Western Pennsylvania. He always said, play like where you're from, you know. So the, you know, Boardman had that reputation of just like, you know, blue-collar guys, and it made it all its way down to Georgia Tech. So it was definitely a great time looking back on everything with all the guys that we had. And it's a fun experience, absolutely.
What were some of your favorite memories of playing there that kind of stick out to you when you look back at your time at Boardman?
I'd have to say we beat Ignatius when they were like the number 6 or 7 team senior year. They had a lot of great players, Gonzalez, Pat Massey. They had a lot of great dudes, and we actually had a big win for us. We had some injuries end of the year, but had a lot of success in that game, and you know, had a lot of great guys on that team. So it was a good time.
As you said, you went on after Boardman. You played for Georgia Tech from 04 to 07. Talk about your recruitment process and what drew you to Georgia Tech, and what made you want to go down there?
Yeah, it was actually I got recruited from a guy who was a coach for John Tenuta. He's actually with the Maryland right now, their defensive coordinator. They were recruiting Mike Phillips. He was another Youngstown guy from Warren Harding, and just saw me on film, went down there, loved the place, fell in love with it. And I committed really early. That was back when they, you know, it was just, there was no early commitments. It was, I think it was, everybody committed in February. And so I committed back in October. I went there once, liked it, took one visit, and that was all she wrote. And looking back, I wouldn't have changed it. So,
was there a certain thing that you absolutely loved about Tech when you went there that you could put your finger on and say, this is what really was the nail in the coffin of bringing me here?
Yeah, I mean, I went down there. I got an engineering degree. It was a good school for athletics and academics. So they're kind of the best of both worlds. It was in you know, nice weather, all that good stuff, and it was definitely an experience. I want to get away from home a little bit, you know. But at the end of the day, I missed Youngstown, and you know, moved back up north. Winters are a little bit tougher, but it's definitely a good experience. And I couldn't pinpoint one thing. I'd just say it was a lot of different things, but it was a great experience. Absolutely.
Not everyone gets the opportunity to go play, not just Division I, but in the Power 5 conferences. When did you kind of know that that was a realistic goal that you kind of had, and that you had the ability to kind of not just play at a Division I level, but play at a Power 5 conference level?
Yeah, I mean, we actually my junior, senior year, I mean, we had a lot of guys in the teams, you know, that went to play on the professional level for a while, like, you know, some of the greats to ever do it, you know, like Calvin Johnson, you know, Philip Wheeler, Tashard Choice, you know, a lot of guys. And just the team we went up against, I think NC State, their entire defense got drafted. You know, their starting 11 guys got drafted. But, you know, through the recruitment process, you know, it's just one of those things. I was a, you know, a 1-star guy at the end of the process. I was a, you know, 2, 3-star guy. And, you know, that stuff, I would just tell younger guys that stuff really doesn't matter. You just got to keep your head down, put the work in. And, you know, I didn't really have that. I got an early offer from in my junior year, and then it kind of built up from there. But you just never know. And it's just one of those things. You just have to see what happens, you know. But, yeah.
Who were some other schools that were kind of interested in you and showed you, you know, offered you and kind of showed you interest?
Yeah, there was a lot of schools. You know, the late great Randy Walker over at Northwestern. You know, Pitt, a lot of the Big East schools, a couple Big Ten. You know, all the MAC. But at the end of the day, I committed early in the recruitment process. You know, back like in October, and there's still 4 months left. But I just knew what I wanted, and that was just where I ended up, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
And you went to a school where academics are so tough, Georgia Tech, known for their engineering, and you were constantly on the all ACC academic team and things like that. What was it like not just balancing academics and football, but balancing one of the toughest academic schools in the country and football?
Yeah, they gave us a good opportunity for success. They had the biggest thing I would say was time management, but they set us up the right way. They had tutors available. They had people to help out in the facility. But yeah, it was just taking things day by day and one thing at a time. But it was definitely had some long nights for sure. But looking back, it was a great place.
A couple months ago when we had Aaron Walker on YSN, he played baseball at Georgia Tech, and one of the things we had to ask him was, how was it being on the same team as Mark Teixeira, who is a superstar in baseball? You got to be on the same team as of a football superstar yourself, and Calvin Johnson. You spent a couple years with him. What was it like, kind of sharing the locker room with that guy and just kind of getting to sit back and see the phenomenon?
I mean, he was his first day on practice. I looked at the guy and I said, man, this guy was special, because normally, you watch the 7-on-7, it's like watching paint dry. But I remember him, when he was a true freshman, he would be running sprints and catching fly routes, and every stride he had was hitting the 5-yard marker. In practice, he had all those catches. You check him out on YouTube and the pros. I mean, he'll be in the Hall of Fame for sure. But he is the nicest guy, the hardest worker, most humble guy you'll ever meet. There's been times where we'd be in the weight room and he'd put people to shame and just would stop working out and make it look like he was tired, but he could go for days. The guy was, if I didn't see it, I wouldn't believe it, to be honest with you. But I mean, to be 6'5", 240, run a 4.2, 4.3, I mean, it's just crazy. But nice guy, great guy. Can't say anything bad about him. He's great guy.
His coming out party was the Clemson game.
Oh, yeah.
Second game in his freshman season. What was that game? That was a crazy game all around. What was that game kind of like? And were you shocked at all that it came down to Calvin Johnson and he was able to go make that catch?
I think we scored 3 touchdowns in the last 2.5 minutes or something like that. And he, I couldn't believe it. I redshirted that my first year, so he was 1 year after me, but he didn't redshirt obviously because he did what he did. So we were in the same class, and I mean, that was the Death Valley. I mean, I don't think we ever lost to Clemson when I was there, but that place to go from so high to so low for them, but it was just elation when that happened. They had the catch with Kerry Collins back in the day, but that's like the catch too in Clemson history. So it was definitely an experience, and Clemson, they're the powerhouse that they are now. But that were our big rival in the Coastal Division of the ACC, and back then it was for good times for sure.
For the people up north, kind of describe what it's like to be a part of the Georgia Tech-Georgia rivalry and what it kind of means to the people at Georgia Tech, because I try to explain it to people, but unless you're there, you just don't know.
Sure. Yeah, I know everyone talks about, one of the greatest rivalries up here with, Ohio State, Michigan and stuff. Down in Georgia, it's called clean old-fashioned hate, and it's been, going on for over 100 years. A lot of history there, a lot of in-state, jockeying for position. That game, we didn't have too good a record with them when I was there. They came back a little bit, and Georgia's obviously doing great things. But there's definitely a passion down there in the South for football, and there's some experiences that we had where just fans and how excited they get. Where there's definitely a lot of passion, and even. There was a story where my, some people in my family were walking to a game with a Georgia Tech hat on, and, the Georgia fans would, get into them a little bit. But there's definitely when you see that, white and gold versus the black and red, it's definitely an event.
You had the opportunity to get coached by Chan Gailey in college, but let's take it back to your high school coaching staff and kind of the things that they did to prepare you for what you were going to see at the next level.
Yeah, so the late great Gary Smith, he was definitely an influence for us. We had a lot of great guys in the team. Tommy Zetz went to do what he did at Youngstown State, Mike Villagrana, Andrew Good, John Greco. We had Evan Beard, Steve Vallis. So some of those guys have professional careers. Some guys played in the Super Bowl. And that's all in a tribute to Boardman. Right now I currently live in Columbus, but I always have a heart for Youngstown and just what it did for me, what it did, to me, and the coaching staff. I mean, they had a lot of great guys. Gary Smith, Roger Patterson, Coach Ferrani. A lot of great guys. Coach McElhaney, guys that are still up there, have a lot of. They brought me back for some other stuff. Talked to some of the guys, Coach DeRamo. Just a lot of great guys, a lot of passion. I know they're doing some great things this year with the coaching staff that they have. Have a lot of upgraded facilities, and I think Boardman's going to do well in the coming years here for sure.
In 2018, you were inducted into the Boardman Hall of Fame. What was that night like, and what was that moment like to kind of be recognized, not as a Boardman great?
Yeah, I was definitely surprised, and it was just great that I got to get inducted with Tommy Zetz and John Greco. And I think we have some other guys on that team that will definitely get called upon a couple of years. But I know John was actually playing for the Giants at that time, couldn't make it down to the game. But just sharing that with Tommy in all the years that we had, it was definitely a great thing. My brother got inducted a few years earlier, and it was definitely a special thing. A lot of good memories, a lot of good times. It was my class that year. I think we had a few other people that graduated in 2003, and it was just it was a great time. A lot of time to reconnect. With a lot of the current and former teachers and facility people. It was just a great experience.
When you get a chance to see Boardman football program now, do you see any kind of similarities to their style, their attitude, and into the teams that you were on back in the day?
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely. When we were there, we had a lot of people. We had a lot of people on the team. Their numbers are down a little bit. Just where football is now versus 15 years ago. What was that? 17 years ago. Man, getting old. But no, it's the same style. Even like current coaches now, I kind of still talk to some of the high school or college coaches, and they still talk about Youngstown and Boardman and being powerhouse in Northeast Ohio. So I think that they're going to do great things here in the near future, and keep your head out for them.
What kind of things made you kind of proud that you went to Boardman, you got to rock the maroon, and that you got to wear the Spartans across your chest? And what was it about the community that made you kind of proud that you were able to say that?
We did a lot of outreach stuff when I was there, and I mean, you just tell that I remember my last game when we played Mooney. It was actually the last SVC game. I think we won 9-7, and just after that game, there were just so many people that you don't really realize it at the time, but how much that means to the community and all the people that are involved. After that game, it was 30 minutes. We were taking pictures with everybody, and people were still there in the stands, cheering us on. And it was definitely, it goes by quick. And looking back on it, 17 years ago is definitely, remember it like yesterday. But it was a lot of community outreach, a lot of, discussions with, former players, especially at the Hall of Fame, and with the induction ceremony, just how much it means to the people in the community of, how much they get behind their Spartans and how much they love them.
Give us some insight into what it was like getting coached by Chan Gailey and what kind of things he kind of brought to the team, and what his practices were like, and maybe some of the things that you don't really get to see just watching him on TV.
Yeah, Coach Gailey, he was actually, he was with the Cowboys, with the Steelers. I was with the Buffalo Bills for a little bit here in the near future, or in the near past year. And we had a lot of coaches that are still in the league right now. Coach Joe DeAlessanders, he was our former, he was my O-line coach, and he's currently with the Baltimore Ravens. They went on a run there, and their O-line, doing great things. But as far as the coaching staff, we have a lot of great guys, and just looking at the TV now, Bo Nix, he's the quarterback at Auburn right now, and his dad, Patrick Nix, was our offensive coordinator. And he used to come to practice all the time and, terrorize us all the time. And now he's, doing his thing, and, had a great first year at Auburn. But the practices, they were always, he demanded excellence. They were always very concise. We got our stuff done, and he was a very religious guy, and he's a great man. So I haven't talked to him in a few years, but I'd love to reconnect with him. He's a great guy.
And then a year after you left, Georgia Tech brought in Paul Johnson. He implemented that triple option offense, and I'm always curious on how people before him think they would have kind of Do you think you would have thrived in that kind of offense where you're cut blocking and you have to move a little bit more?
It's definitely – oh, God, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Yeah, it was definitely a different scheme just to get to that second level. But, yeah, they actually – a lot of the guys that Coach Gailey recruited were actually on that class, and they won the was at the Orange Bowl, I think, in 2009 with, Josh Nesbitt. He's on, like, the ACC All-Decade team, Jonathan Dwyer, Demarius Thomas. All those guys were the guys that, when I was a senior, that we brought in, and you knew those guys were special. But as far as that offense, yeah, it did well. They had a great talent. I know they have a new coach now where I think they're going to make some headway with Coach Collins. And I think they're going to do a lot of great things. As far as that offense, I know that different people try it and stuff. I mean, they had some success with it. We had a different pro-style offense, but it worked for them. It got them, an ACC championship in 2009. They had some great teams. But yeah, I don't know how that would work out for me as far as trying to do that stuff. And, I've never had to do it, but it looked like they definitely every year led the league or led the country in rushing, not so much passing, but definitely on the ground game.
Did you ever kind of watch in 08 and 09 think to yourself, like, what you would have experienced if you would have been in that kind of offense?
You think about that stuff and just like our schemes, because we were more of a pro-style team and, we had a lot of great guys. But the pro-style offense and just like zone schemes, I know that I've really had experience with the wishbone offense or the triple option stuff, but there's definitely a lot of misdirection and talking to some of the former guys going down to some games after I graduated, trying to pick it all up. But I think they're getting back to their pro style offense now, and I think they're going to make some headway here in the next couple of years for sure.
Now, after your career at Georgia Tech, you got to sign a undrafted free agent, contract with the New Orleans Saints. What was that moment like when you had an NFL contract in front of you and you were able to sign it?
Yeah, it was a compilation of, all my time at Boardman, all the time at Georgia Tech. And it was special. I mean, and then too, like, you go to OTAs and mini camp and, you're there with Reggie Bush and, Drew Brees, and Drew Brees doing the things that they're doing. I was on the team for, 3 months, didn't make the team. And of course that's the year they won the Super Bowl. But, it was a great experience. And, you kind of watch these guys growing up, and at the end of the day, they're guys just like us, and, they joke around and all that good stuff. But it was definitely a great time. And, looking back on it, it's just the whole – because I started football back in, 91, I think, back when I was 80 pounds playing for the little Spartans, way back when. And just, all through all that stuff, it was definitely a journey that, I look back on quite a bit.
You only spent 3 months with the team, but in those 3 months, what was that kind of whole next level experience like, trying to realize how much of a step it was from college to professional athlete? Yeah,
there was a big step from high school to college, and then the step was, 10 times that from college to pros. Everything was just so much faster, and, it was definitely an eye-opening experience, and that was a great team. Like I said earlier, they won the Super Bowl that year. And it was definitely, what I expected, and was a great experience.
What kind of ways, after your football career was done, have you kind of kept yourself in the sport and tried to give back to Boardman and try to make sure their program stays on the up and up?
Yeah, so there's a few times where, as far as the coaching staff going to talk to the guys and, just going to games and checking in with the coaching staff and some of the players, and just trying to go to the games with my dad. My dad still loves to go to the games. He's, he was there was a time frame where he went to my brother's games, and I had 4 brothers, and then my brother, my oldest brother, and my youngest brother played in college. So there was about a 20-year period where my dad was going from, a game at Boardman to a game at Toledo. Then, when I was at Boardman, and I went to Georgia Tech, and my younger brother was playing in high school. So, my dad still loves the Spartans, tells me all about them every fall, every weekend. And, I still head home quite a bit to see those games, and it was definitely a great time.
Did your dad ever give you a hard time for going so far away from home and making that travel a lot?
I'll tell you what, my dad, quick story. It was was actually, I said this at the Hall of Fame induction, and I got him to tear up a little bit, but it was pretty funny where he was actually went to my brother's game, or went to my game at Boardman when I was a senior, and my brother was playing on ESPN at noon in Minneapolis, Minnesota, with the Gophers. Toledo was playing them up there. So he actually went to my game, drove for 12 hours, made it to kickoff at noon, didn't sleep, drove through the night, and actually fell asleep at the game. So we called my brother, and I was like, "Hey, did you see Dad? What's going? How's Dad doing?" All this stuff. He was like, "Did he even come to the game? I didn't see him." So this is before cell phones and everything else, or he didn't have a cell phone at the time. And he called us from a payphone. He's like, "Yeah, I fell asleep through the whole game. Didn't even see Chris. The custodian woke him up at the after the game." So my dad, I actually redshirted my first year. He came to almost every game just to watch me stand on the sidelines. But he came. I think he missed 2 games in my entire 5-year career. So and again, that's 753 miles from our driveway to my to the stadium. And he was there every week, and I can't. The support him and my mom gave me throughout that whole process was just, looking back on it, it's kind of crazy.
As a Tech fan, I have to ask what it was like running behind the Rambling Wreck and how much that got to hype you up, because I've heard all the stories on how nothing really hypes you up more than running behind that Model Ford T. And what was that kind of experience like?
It was definitely different. But that Model T's been leading them out onto Georgia Tech, I think, since the 60s. They have a lot of great traditions at Tech. Great. I don't know if you know, but they have the oldest Division I football stadium in the country. I think the only ones ahead of them are Penn and Harvard, I believe. I should have done some research before this, but they have a lot of great traditions. And the athletic program at Tech, when I was there, I think they were and I don't know if this is still true or not, but they had a top 3 draft pick in all 3 major sports. And I think it was 2004 with Calvin Johnson, Matt Wieters, and there was with the whole drafts and everything, there was just a lot of talent there. And nothing like Atlanta on a Thursday night or a Saturday night primetime game. It was definitely a great experience.
2004 was the year their basketball team went to the national championship game. Did you kind of know any of those players? Did you get to connect with those guys at all?
Yeah, so Luke Schinscher, he was a 7-foot Aussie, and Jared Jack, he was one of my good buddies. So he went to have a great NBA career, and he was in a couple of my classes, and he was a stand-up guy, great guy.
That's awesome. Before we let you go, because quarantine has kept us kind of inside, I always end interviews like this the last couple of months. What has been kind of your favorite at-home quarantine activity since you've been stuck inside?
Yeah, well, so I've been deemed as essential, so I haven't been really at home as much. But I always give my mom a hard time because I told her that the state says I'm essential, even though no matter what she says. But a lot of good times with the wife, and we have actually just a 7-month-old that spend a lot of quality time with her. But with my work, I'm still out there and going. Normal stuff for me, but this whole thing is just kind of crazy how it's kind of changed everything. And I think there's gonna be a lot of people from work from home from now on. Our office, there's pretty much not that many people in the office now, but that's definitely going to change things, I think, going forward with these crazy times for sure.
What are you doing with that Georgia Tech education?
Yeah, I'm actually a engineer for an elevator company in Columbus, Ohio. So I make it up to Youngstown as much as I can. My parents still live up there. Probably going up there this weekend for Father's Day. But living in Columbus, close to home, just working for an elevator company.
Well, the old adage is 2/5 of their graduations are millionaires. So keep trucking.
Yeah, right. I'm not there for sure, but hopefully. Right?
Keep trucking. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. It was great to hear from you. And we'll definitely look to keep in touch with you in the future on YSN.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time.